what's poppin'? How are you doing today? Welcome back to another episode of just lunchtime reviews, views, maybe some news. Someday I'll have news, I don't know. Someday, if there's any good news ever. But right now I just kind of stick to like the reviews and stuff. Because I like to be entertained. I know other people like to as well. And you want to know like what's good or what's interesting without having to spend a whole lot of time like sifting through and like, oh, what are some recommendations? So I have a recommendation today. Today I am recommending this book. If you like ghost stories, if you like that slow build kind of horror thriller, with a really good payoff, this is a very good one. This is the Invited by Jennifer McMahon. That's who it is. I love this author. I've read most of her books. This is the first one I read that's hers. She has some other. She has another one that I want to talk about at a time. But this one was a really good book, and it had a really funny moment, which I'll get to. But the premise of the story is that this husband and wife, and and it takes place in Vermont, which I think is neat because we always think of Vermont as like where the holiday movies take place, or the Hallmark holiday movies take place, and that's kind of our image of Vermont in our minds. This author's, all of her books take place in Vermont, and they're all creepy. They're all have those vibes. They're all on the horror genre, which I think is neat because it's a complete difference from what we usually think of in Vermont. So this story, the journal synopsis is that this husband and wife, Helen and Nate, they are finally able to build their dream house. Wish we all were, but like this is a little dream world. But they're able to build their dream house in the rural area of Vermont. So they buy some land and they want to build a house. The wife loves history, and she always wanted to buy like an older house. Like, she probably watches HGTV and she's obsessed with cheap old houses and stuff like that. And she just wants to buy an old house with some history to it, which I like to look at that stuff too. But I'm just going to say, as somebody who grew up in two really old houses, one from like, I think it was like the 1920s, and then another one from like the 1890s, I will say they are creepy. Creepy stuff happens. I also have stories about that. If anybody's interested, let me know, and I can tell some actual like some ghost stories, some paranormal stories, some stuff that I've seen, stuff that happened to my siblings and stuff. Yeah, we can tell some stories like that. But anyway, back to this story. So this husband and wife, they're building their house. And as I said, she always liked history. So she wants to have these like little historical touches in her house. So she's going like antique stores and stuff and trying to find things. And she's reading on the history of the land that they bought, like the history of this area. And she gets really obsessed with the story of this woman named Hattie and her like family line. And Hattie was a woman who was hanged for being a witch long time ago. So she gets really obsessed with this woman's family and their lineage and all the stories throughout. And one of the things in this is that all the women in this family have all died suspiciously. They've all had horrible fates, basically, including Hattie. So what this woman ends up doing is they do not buy a haunted house. They build a haunted house. And she winds up just collecting different things that are somehow related to this woman and her family and the bad things that happen to them. And one of my favorite parts when I was reading this is that she goes to a antique store. And she's talking to the guy, and they're talking about like the history and the family and stuff. And the guy says, "You know what? So I have this beam," because it's like a big beam. And he says the wood from this beam came from the tree that she was hung from. And the wife just looks at him and she goes, shut up and take my money. I need to have that in my house, in my kitchen. This is great. There was also like one of the women died in a horrible fire, so she went and she had to get all these bricks from where all these people died in this fire, and she did that. And her husband confronts her about this. He's like, "What are you doing?" Like, he's like, "I appreciate you're getting like used materials and we're repurposing, and that's all fine." But then he's like, what are you doing? And so the wife's like, "Well, I thought I could create like a safe space, a communal space for the ghosts. That's what they can come here." And I'm reading, I'm like, what are these ghosts gonna do? They're gonna come, they're gonna have coffee, they're gonna talk about the horrible things that happened to them, they're gonna find their peace in your house. That's not what they do. If you've ever watched or read anything, this is just, baby, this is F around. This is the definition of F around and find out. Like, you're messing with stuff, you don't know what you're messing with. And it's just, you're just sitting there reading it, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm just cringing. Like, this woman is so, this is not the brightest woman. She's not the brightest crayon in the bunch, but that is what she did. So the story continues like that. There's a hidden treasure. There's a mystery. The woman, the lineage is still going. So there's women still alive in this family. So there's this rush to save them. It's really entertaining, and I really like that the author does a very good job of weaving the past and the present together. So overall, I would give it like 3.5, 4 stars. I was entertained. It was fun, and I think you guys should check it out. Check it out. And if you do, let me know. But that's my little review for the day. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'm gonna finish my little lunch tea and then heat up some lunch and eat that. But that's what I got going on today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Cheers.